So what is fitness? Fitness is all kinds of things. It's not a binary system. It's not that you're fit or you are not. So fitness is really dependent on you and your goals and where you are in your life. As a side note, I didn't want to use any stock imagery or imagery I didn't have permission to use. So most of the pictures you're going to see are of me. So I apologize for all the Shane-ness that you're going to see in this presentation. But this is a specific kind of fitness. You'll see this picture is of me doing a pistol, which is a one-legged body weight squat. So if you're a strength athlete, it may not really be of importance for you to do this kind of movement because you're only using your body weight. It's a lot of balance, it's a lot of mobility, it's a lot of flexibility. So for me as an outdoor athlete where I'm using my body, this is the type of fitness and training that is applicable to me. But if you're a football player, for instance, and you want to be big and you want to be strong and you want to have a lot of power and a lot of quickness, doing something like this may not benefit your fitness. So what is fitness? For me, fitness isn't so much a measurement of a certain exercise, like if you bench a certain amount of weight, you're fit, and if you can't, you're not. Or if you can run a certain distance in a certain time, you're fit, and if you can't, you're not. It's more along the lines of subjective, relative, individual, fluid, and endless. I chose this picture to kind of represent what fitness is because this is my friend Tom and I in Yosemite, and at the time, I was in my late 30s and he was almost 60. So he was a lot older than I am. We're about the same height, about the same build, but we could both go climbing and hiking in Yosemite for 2 weeks together, even though he was a third or almost half as old as I was. Now I was quite a bit stronger than he was, but he had tons more conditioning. So every time we hiked in somewhere, he was always way ahead of me, but I could climb harder than he was. So we were both fit as climbers and both fit as backpackers and hikers, but we still had that individual levels of fitness of being kind of ahead or behind each other, depending. So to go further into subjective, this is another Yosemite trip. My buddy Jeff and I, you can see Half Dome behind us, who are both climbers. And the question is, which one of us is fit? So again, we're kind of similar heights, but obviously our builds are very different. He's a lot stockier than I am. He has much wider shoulders and hips. He's got a bit of a belly, but he's super strong. He comes from a background like I did. We actually met in high school on the track and cross country team. So we both used to run, but he then went into basically strength and power and weight training. And so he's super strong. He has tons of power. And I predominantly do body weight exercises and I'm a lot leaner and smaller than he is, but we still can both go climbing and hiking and even do it together. So it's not so much that one of us is a fit climber and the other isn't, it's we're both fit just in different ways. So again, trying to think of fitness not in a binary yes or no way, but in a what works for me way. Fitness is relative, which there's a pun here because this is my brother, so he's literally my relative, but he does CrossFit. And so he's a lot younger than I am. He's a lot heavier than I am. He looks like a power lifter. He's quite a bit shorter than I am, but he's way stronger than I am. His fitness is relative to his community. The CrossFit community, quite often, like they call it a box instead of a gym. So he goes to the box every day and he trains with predominantly the same people every time. So his fitness is relative to not only his performance in CrossFit, because they measure everything so he knows where he's at and is he improving in this or not. So it's relative to his own performance, but it's also relative to the other people or comparative to the other people in his individual CrossFit box. You know, based on the other guys or the other girls that are here, how does my fitness rank as opposed to them? But also it's relative to CrossFit as a whole. So in comparison to the ideal version of doing walking handstands, for instance, is his ability to do it good or not relative to the standard? Now, I don't do CrossFit, so I don't relate any of my standards of fitness to anything that they do because it doesn't apply to me. So one of the other things to think about is especially in social media, we see pictures of these people, or we see people competing on fields and sports and things. Quite often we fall into the trap of thinking that we are or aren't fit based on what those other people are doing, but it may not relate to us in any way. So kind of learning what does and doesn't relate to you might be very helpful in helping you understand, like, how fit are you actually, and is something someone else is doing going to actually be a good goal for you to pursue or not. Fitness is also individual. So kind of like dealing with a relative thing, as opposed to thinking of comparing yourself to others, it's quite often better to think of comparing yourself to other versions of yourself. So this is a picture from me about 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time I felt like I was pretty fit, but when I look back on it, I feel now that I wasn't. I was very conditioned, so I could put a pack on and kind of hike all day, but I was still dealing with some residual shoulder injuries, and I wasn't very strong. I wasn't very flexible or mobile, and I was quite a bit thicker and heavier than I am now. As opposed to, this is from last summer, I'm much leaner and much stronger, but I was not doing any conditioning. I couldn't carry a pack, and I didn't have like the general fitness, so to speak, of being able to go all day like I was in the previous picture. So I was much happier in the movement I had in my fitness from that first picture 5 years ago to now. And so I feel fitter now, but it's me comparing myself to myself as opposed to comparing myself to others. But again, that was a fluid thing. So my fitness has changed over time, and it's going to continue to change. And rather than look at myself as a failure or a success, to step back and say, I'm going to allow my fitness to change over time because I'm going to change over time. And as long as I remain fit in whatever works for me, I am fit as opposed to I was fit. And that leads me to the pursuit of fitness. For me, I'm an athlete. I've been an athlete since I was in high school. Training and being athletic and being physically fit is a part of my life. So this is a picture of me doing some get-ups on our patio Monday morning. So I get up and I train three mornings a week because that's part of my routine. I like to do that. It makes me feel good, and it's something I've done for a long time, and I'm going to continue to do it. So rather than think in terms of these big life goals, a lot of times people will say, oh, I want to run a marathon, and they'll put running into their life, and they'll build themselves up for a few weeks or months, and they'll have that big event. And then for the rest of their lives, they'll be able to say, I ran a marathon once. Well, that's great, but you can't sit on the couch for 20 years and say, I'm fit because I ran a marathon once. Fitness is something that becomes a part of your life, and it can really improve your life. So again, thinking in terms of individualizing your fitness, making goals that are specific to you, comparing yourself to yourself as opposed to other people, and understanding that it's kind of a lifestyle shift and change. That is more, I feel, a better way to look at fitness than some kind of arbitrary number or comparing yourself to other people.